Okay, so if you'd like to come into a comfortable seated position, and comfortable is kind of in the eye of the beholder, really, isn't it? It's going to be relative to how you're feeling. So if you've got any niggly hips, if you've got like symptoms pubis dysfunction, you might prefer to kneel, because that's going to keep the pubis completely together. And I was thinking actually kneeling would be quite good for you as well. Now there is
Except for my dodgy knees.
well, except there is caveat to kneeling, and that is if you're there too long, it's going to congest your calf muscles. And particularly if you're getting varicose veins, that's a no-no. So what you do instead is you can have a block and you put that underneath your heels. So now there's no pressure on the calf. So I'm going to give you that, Jen, so you've got that as well. So that's, are you okay? You've got your block. Are you all right? Does that feel, are you all right? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's your options for kneeling, just making sure. Kneeling's a really nice way to sit, isn't it? You know what I was talking about, the angles? Look at that angle now. Doesn't it feel more spacious? So it's quite good, but you've got to have that decompression underneath the calves. So if you're sitting cross-legged, what I would suggest, those of you who are sitting cross-legged, can you swap them over the other way? And there's a reason for this, because your pelvic muscles and ligaments and fascia are softening all the time now. And we are creatures of habit, and so we will always sit cross-legged the same way. And if you do that through your pregnancy, the likelihood is that it's going to stretch and stretch and stretch even more that same way, so that you get a wonky pelvis, which is what I had, because I always sat on the floor. And I was already doing yoga when I was pregnant with my son. I've had years of pelvic hip issues and sacral issues after it's taken quite a long time to sort of recalibrate it all. So crossing and doing the odd side is really, really important. And can you see how weird it feels when you cross it over the way? It just feels really odd, and that's because the muscles aren't used to stretching that way, which is why it's really, really important. So it's about maintaining balance and symmetry in the pelvis. So the other thing is, if you are more than 34 weeks into your pregnancy, we don't recommend sitting cross-legged at this point anymore, because it compresses the calf muscles too much. So you can come into a more open position, what we call a butterfly pose, which is where you're going to have the soles of your feet together and the knees out wide. You can also come into this position prior to that time if you feel that your hips will benefit from having a nice big stretch. So they're your basic kind of seated postures. There's also a slightly wider cross-legged position where you kind of take the knees wide and have one foot in front of the other. So again, if you're comfortable with that, that's another option for you to sit in. But the most important thing is it the right one for you? I don't know if already.
It's my feet. Is that silly? Like the stretch, you know, like there.
Yeah.
Like
so if yeah, not everybody can flex here.
No, I don't think I can.
So have you got some? Have you got
a cushion underneath
blanket?
I've got a blanket.
So if you roll that up into a sausage and put that under your whatever that bit's called, front of your ankle.
I tried to do that with my cushion.
Yeah. But you need to kind of roll it so it's just on that bit. So roll it into more of a sausage rather than just having it under it.
This is a new yoga pose.
Yeah. Well, it's only because I'm talking so much. We'll get on, shall we? Okay, so from here, what you're going to do now is come into a particular hand movement. These are called mudras. You're going to bring the hands together and then interlace the fingers. And then just extend the index finger and then point it out in front and then pull the thumb back. And when you look down, you've got this kind of diamond shape. This is the shape of the womb, and this is called Yoni Mudra, and Yoni is a Sanskrit name for the womb. So this is connecting you into your womb, and then you point it downwards but relax your shoulders, and you can kind of just place it over your belly. So wherever it feels comfortable for you, just placing that mudra over your belly and connecting in with your baby. And then just close your eyes, being aware of, first of all, the sensations in your physical body. How does your body feel? Tuning into all of the sensations that you can feel at the moment. And then noticing the changes that you notice in your body. So your body is changing all the time. So you might notice something different today, a different sensation, a different way of movement. So notice these changes as and when they happen. And they don't happen necessarily regularly. And then moving your awareness to your baby. So allow your attention to come down into your belly. And just become aware of any sensations that you're experiencing from your baby at this moment. Noticing if your baby is active. Notice if they're resting. And then fixing your awareness to your breath. So the last part of this settling in experience is to connect with your breathing. So become aware initially of the sensation of your breath coming in through your nose. Notice how it feels. Is the nose congested? Quite common in pregnancy for nasal congestion. Then transfer your awareness to your throat. And from here, just beginning to observe the sensation of your breath in your throat. And at the same time, just creating a subtle restriction around your throat, as if you were going to pretend to snore. This is called the ocean breath, where that slight restriction creates the sound of the ocean. It's the same sensation we make in our throat when we are sighing. And that also allows us to deepen our breath. And using that slower rhythm of the breath, we're going to introduce some movements in the arms using this little hand mudra. So you want to open your eyes, keeping the hands in this position. So as you breathe in, you're going to draw the elbows out to the sides, so the palms come up to the heart. And then as you breathe out, you turn that mudra upwards. As you breathe in, you take the arms all the way up over the head. And then as you breathe out, circle the arms all the way around and down, and then back into the Yoni Mudra. So inhale, rise up. Exhale, turn. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, circle around. So just keep going. Do a few more of these, but you can go at your own pace and let your breath guide you. Now then, just finishing the one that you are on, so making that the last one. So from here, we're going to take the legs out in front and we're going to just give a little bit of work into the feet, into the toes and into the ankles. So you might want to come a little bit away from the wall so that you can lean back a little bit and just enjoy that experience of leaning back. So just start with your toes, wriggle the toes. So as we were talking earlier, swelling, particularly in the feet and the toes and the ankles, really, really common in pregnancy. So the more you can move these parts of the body, the more you can kind of flush the fluid around. And the lymphatic fluid, so can you point now and flex, so pull the toes back towards you. So lymphatic fluid moves around the body only by the movement of the associated muscles. So blood gets pumped around the body by the heart, and the lymphatic system follows a similar sort of circulatory system in the way that it's transported around, but it doesn't have a pump. So it only relies on the muscles moving. So you can imagine that, you know, if you're sitting and you're not really using muscles for any length of time, this lymph can't kind of get moved around the body. So this is a really good one for the calf muscles. So you're kind of contracting and then releasing the calf muscles with this one. Can you feel it at the back of the legs? And the calf muscle is the main kind of muscular pump that takes the fluid from the feet back up towards the heart. Okay, and then circle the feet around. And then the other way. And give it a bounce up and down. And then out. And then leaning back a little bit more, you're going to bring the feet up, take them wide, probably wider than your mat. Have the feet quite close in towards you, just as far as it's comfortable. And then you're going to drop both knees over to one side, bring them back up, and then drop them over to the other side. You had to get off my block because it doesn't work. That wasn't working. And then do the same. Again, so particularly this internal rotation on the leg that's kind of coming inwards, and the knee comes towards the floor. This is a really nice stretch with the hips, is kind of internally moving hip. So particularly getting stiff hips, it's kind of quite a nice move to do. So just going to do it a couple more times. And then come back up. Now bring the soles of your feet together and let the knees drop out to the side. And just notice how that feels. So some of us have various sort of tightnesses in the body, more so than others, and for a lot of people it's the hips. So for me it was hamstrings. So my hamstrings are really, really tight. My hips are quite okay. And you might have the same, like loose hips and tight hamstrings, or tight hips and loose hamstrings, which is what I kind of find in all the years I've been teaching yoga, particularly in regular yoga classes where we kind of push the body a little bit more. Most people are either one or the other. Unless you do dance, and I find dancers or gymnasts, you have the full range because you've worked so much on all of those kind of ranges. So as you breathe in with that ocean breath, with the muscles contracted around your throat, let the knees lift up. And then on the out breath, vocalize that. So inhale again. And just continue to do that a few times. Go at your own pace. You want to kind of make the breath as nice and long and also as full as you can. So remember, with pregnancy, you're breathing for two. So the more deeply you can breathe, and by deeply, don't necessarily mean trying to squeeze as much breath in as you can. I find that breathing slowly is often a better description of what we're aiming for. Breathing slowly so that we can actually fill the lungs up completely is a really good way of thinking about getting more oxygen into our body. So you're just going to do one more. So these breathing techniques allow us to breathe more fully, and when we breathe more fully, it keeps us more alert and more awake, so it reduces our tiredness. But more importantly, your baby gets an adequate oxygen supply, which is, what they need. Okay, so from here, you can stretch the legs out again, have a little bounce, maybe some windscreen wiper movements. And then you can come back into whatever position you are comfortable to be in, so finding whatever works for you. So I'm not going to dictate any wrong-legged crosses or anything. You can just sit how you feel most comfortable. And then we're just going to do some neck releases, and this can often work on the upper back as well. So I often find that when people have tight shoulders, if you work on the neck first, suddenly the shoulders feel better. So making sure that your spine is nice and long and the head sits nicely on top of the spine. And finding that ocean breath again, so slow, full, controlled breath. And the moves are going to happen on the exhalation because that's the kind of relaxing part of the breath. So the next time you breathe out, just gently turn your head towards the left. And you're kind of just inviting the head to turn. You're not pushing it around. It's almost like you're relaxing into the stretch. And then breathing in, bring the head back to the center. Breathing out, turn the head to the other side. And as you breathe in, bring it back to the center. Just do that 2 more times. So every time you breathe out, you turn the head away from the center line. And you just invite the head to turn. So no forcing, no pushing, just softening it around. And then when you've completed 3 rounds, bring the head back to the center. And then we're going to come over to the sides. And now on the exhale, take your ear towards the shoulder. And as you inhale, bring it all the way back up. And then exhaling to the other side. And inhale back up. And just do that 2 more times. Again, you're just offering the head to move into these directions with your exhalation. We're not forcing the head. It's more like a relax into the stretch. And when you come back to the center, you can just bring your hands onto your elbows. Bring the elbows together and then take the arms up to the ceiling just as far as you can, and then circle the elbows around and then down. So you're drawing a circle with the elbows, and you might get a lot of noise as you do this. And then loosen everything out. And then last move, we're going to come to the side. So you're going to bring the fingertips to the floor. And as you breathe in, take the right arm up, root the sitting bone into the ground. So don't try to lift up. And then as you breathe out, just lengthen the left side of the body. So you're reaching over towards, I don't know. Are you making is this your right arm?
Yeah,
I've mirrored
right
again.
arm's in the air.
Right arm's in the air, so you're lengthening the right side of the body. I try and be clever and I mirror, but you're not facing me, so it doesn't make any sense, does it? So you're lengthening the right side of your body, so root the right hip down and then lengthen the rib cage away. And then just circle the arm down to the floor. It's a nice way of coming out of that pose. And then same on the other side, which will be your left. So reach the arm up. And then to come over, root the left sitting bone into the ground and lengthen the left side of the waist. So you keep moving the hip down and then moving the rib cage away from the pelvis. And then circle, come all the way down. And just do that once more. So side lengthening is really nice to do in pregnancy. This is where your baby is residing in that space between your pelvis and your rib cage. The more space you can make between the pelvis and your rib cage, the more space they have to move, to grow, to stretch out. And release and come down. Okay, lovely. So from here, can you come over onto your hands and onto your knees, please? So when you come onto all fours, it's quite useful to make sure that you are creating a lot of space in your spine. So make sure that you haven't got your hands too close to the knees, which means that you're shortening your spine. So you lengthen your spine and then place the hands underneath the shoulders once you've created that length in the spine. Now tuck your tailbone under. Press the tailbone towards the floor so your pelvis tilts and the whole of your back rises up towards the ceiling and the head relaxes back down towards the floor. So you're making as much of a rounding in your back as you can. Keep pressing the hands into the floor and then just wave the hips from side to side with the back still in that rounded position. So that loosens the quadratus lumborum muscles, the QL muscles, which are quite important muscles in terms of your back strength, but they're also ones that tend to get tight. So stretching out the QL muscles can be really good at alleviating lower back pain. And the way that we get into the QL muscle is like this. We round the back in some kind of forward bend movement and then you sway from side to side. Okay, now come back to the centre. Keep yourself in that rounded position. You're going to need to make space between your knees for your baby. So widen your knees as much as you feel you need to. And then with the back still round, ease the hips all the way back to the heels. And then once you get there, you can sway again from side to side. So ease the hips round from one side to the other. And then push up and come up. So we're going to do a simplified version of that. We're just going to do it with the breath, and we're going to use the B breath, which is just humming on the exhale. This is another of our birthing breaths. So all of the breath work that we do in the class, for those who are new today, they're all tried and tested birthing breaths. So I just kind of drip feed them every week, so that by the time you go into labour, you're doing these in your sleep. But this is a really good one. It's very calming and soothing, both for you and for your baby, and it can be useful to lower fetal heart distress during labour. So we're just going to round the back, and this will happen on the exhale, and then we take the hips all the way back to the heel, so all that is the exhale movement. And then on the inhale, you just push your shins into the ground and give the pelvic floor a little squeeze as well if you like. Why not do some pelvic floor work whenever you get the opportunity? Okay, so that's the move, and then we're going to do that with the breath. So as you breathe out, you're just going to hum. And just breathe again, coming up. And just go at your own pace. Just keep going. Don't try and keep pace with anybody else, and particularly don't try and keep pace with me. I'm not pregnant, and I also teach breathwork courses for a living as well as doing this, so my breath capacity is quite considerable. One more time. Oh, lovely. Instep cramp. Oh, that's the worst one. Okay. So from here we're going to come into puppy dog pose, which is a stretch in that kind of upper back where you're having your niggles. So I'm going to come sideways because it's going to be easier for you to see, except for Rupinder and Karen, who are just going to get a face and a bum. But I'll turn back around.
No, I can see the screen.
You can see the, oh, good idea, see the screen. I'm just going to pull everything down. So downward facing dog is this pose, and we've got a puppy dog, which kind of has the same principles, which is lengthening the spine, but we've also got a little bit of a back stretch. So you take the hips down to the floor. You will need to widen the knees a little bit. You may not be able to get as far down as me, but what you're looking to do is to get the chest towards the floor. And then you've got this little stretch. The arms are straight, and the sternum is pressing down towards the floor. So another variation, if you can't get down very far because your baby is now restricting the movement, you can come up onto your fingertips, and that raises you a bit higher, but you keep pressing the chest down, so you've still got that stretch around the shoulders and around the upper body. So this is a really nice stretch for the upper body. And if it's really tight in your shoulders, then you can take your arms wider. So you don't have to have the hands really close together. Take them slightly wider so that you can get more into the upper body. And then breathing in, rising all the way up. So push into the feet and then you'll come all the way up. Okay, so from here, slide your right knee forwards and take the left leg backwards. So now you can feel that stretch in the quadricep muscles. So it's quite nice to get this stretch into the quads, because when these are tight, they will affect your posture. They'll pull your pelvis out of position. So just rock from side to side as best you can. And then maybe a little bit of baby bump to navigate around. And then, if it's comfortable, and if it is isn't, I can give you a modification. We're going to come into pigeon pose. So you're going to walk your right foot forward. Try not to pick it up, because the tendency is that you'll place it with your hands in a position where your hip actually and your knee doesn't particularly want to go. Allow the knee to come slightly out to the side. You can see mine is to the outside of my hand. And then you want to make sure that your hips are level. So you don't want to drop your right hip down onto the floor. Now if you come up onto your fingertips, and you feel that stretch in your quad, and you might get a little bit of a stretch in the belly as well. And then you're going to come down onto your elbows. Now at this point, you can check if your pelvis is level. So you can just put one hand onto the back of your pelvis and just check if it's level, that you haven't tilted. I'm just going to stay here for a few breaths. Are you alright?
I feel like my bum's in the way.
Yeah. I don't think.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so modification, you do the reclining version. So you do this.
I just don't think that's logistically working right now. It wasn't just me.
I did try.
I did. That's why I looked up and saw you laughing this one.
So right leg over, right ankle over the left leg, and then lift the left leg up off the floor. That's it. And then you're getting a similar stretch in the hip. And you kind of play around a bit here. You can move the hips around if you like. Okay, so just a couple more breaths. And then if you're in pigeon, you can slowly come up and push your hands into the ground and then slide the knee back. And I'm going to come into downward facing dog if you're comfortable with that. If you're not, you can just work with some cat pose, which is just flexing, lengthening and flexing the spine. Like this. If you want to come into downward facing dog, tuck your toes under. Take the hands a little bit further forward so you've got a bit more space, and then press back. So you're actively pushing the heels of your hands into the floor, and you're actively tilting the tailbone up to the ceiling. So you've got that upper body, pretty much like we did puppy dog earlier. And then dropping one heel and then the other up towards the floor. And then bring the knees all the way back down. So left knee now slides forwards, right leg slides back, and just rocking from side to side again, just easing out. And tightness in the hip. And yeah, if you're going to do a reclining version, you can come down. So from here, walking your left foot forwards, letting your right knee slightly drop out to the side, making sure that you're not sitting on your left hip, and then coming up onto your fingertips, lifting the chest, and just feeling that stretch in the right quadricep now, and then coming down onto your elbows. And from here, again, just making sure your hips are level, that you're not tilting over to one side. And then we'll just stay here for a few breaths. So Karen and Jen, you've got your left leg over now, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Notice how this feels on this side. So hips are often quite uncomfortable during pregnancy. And so doing some big stretches on a Monday night, it quite often means that it's the best night's sleep you have in a week because you don't get all the aching that normally keeps you up. And it also helps to get rid of your insomnia as well, because it's a gentle practice, and we focus on the breath and cultivating tranquility. So it does have this benefit of helping to cultivate sleep. Okay, so from here, pushing up and sliding back, and then down facing dog again. So tucking the toes under, pushing into the heels of your hands, tilting the tailbone up to the ceiling, and then just easing one heel at a time towards the ground. So lengthening into the hamstrings. And then bringing the knees all the way back down. Okay. So from the all fours position, take the right leg back and then slide it out to the sides and walk your hands back and come up. So you want to have the left leg, which is the supporting leg, vertical. So make sure you're not sort of here because it's not going to support you, it's going to strain your inner knee and your inner ligament. So you want to make sure that that left thigh is upright and then plant the right foot on the floor. And it really helps if you have your toe in line with the knee because now everything is squared on. So you're going to bring the left hand onto the hip and the right leg onto the thigh. And you're just going to gently exhale and lengthen the left side of your waist. You're not going to pull yourself over. You're just going to offer, like we did with the neck stretches, just offer yourself over and then inhaling, come up. So you're going to use the ocean knee.
I've got cramp in the hip.
Cramp. Lovely. Yeah, it's quite interesting with yoga that you do end up getting cramp. I think it's a good sign in a way because you're stretching something, but it's just horrible when it happens. Okay, so same thing again. So use the exhale to sort of offer yourself over into the side stretch and then come all the way back. And then just do that again and thinking about just lengthening the left side of the waist. And then from here you can extend the left arm up to the ceiling if it's comfortable. And then you can stretch the arm over the head so you've increased the stretch. And then circle the arm down in front of you. Rise all the way back up. Keep the leg where it is. Walk the hands out. And we're going to do a little twist. You're going to just take the right arm up to the ceiling, turning the belly. And then bring the hand all the way down. And then last move, slide the leg behind you and then drop the right knee to the outside of the left knee. So that both knees are bent. And then roll the spine to the ceiling and just to kind of tilt the hips back a little bit. You won't get very far because there'll be nowhere for your baby to go. But this is a really nice stretch for the sacral area. So what you might feel as you are round in the back and sort of taking the hips slightly backwards in this position, what you might find is that you've got a nice bit of a stretch in the sacrum. And we're going to kind of focus on this a bit more later on. Okay, undo. And then take the left leg back behind you, push the heel away, stretch into Cartwheel. And then slide the leg around to the side, walk your hands back, and then rise all the way up. And then same thing again, make sure that your right thigh is completely vertical and that the toes are in line with the knee. You're going to leave the right hand on the hip, the left hand on the thigh, and as you breathe out with your slow ocean breath, just start to lengthen the right side of the body. And then as you inhale, gently climb back up. And again. And then this time you're going to stay down and maybe just invite the right arm to reach up. Maybe it can extend over the head, so you're lengthening through the side of the body. And then circle the arm all the way back down to the floor. And then walk your hands forward. So you're back into the all fours position and then just turn the belly to the left, put the the left arm up, twisting to the left side. And then release and come down. And then slide the left leg all the way back behind the right leg. And then drop the knee to the floor outside the right knee. And then roll the spine to the ceiling, around the back, and just gently take the hips back as far as elbow. It'll be a tiny movement, but hopefully you're getting a really good stretch in the sacrum. And then coming up, just undoing the legs. So tucking the tailbone, tucking the toes under, taking the hands a little bit further forward, pushing up and back into down facing dog again. And then this time, walk your feet forwards, walk your hands backwards until they meet and you're dangling forwards. So here you can soften the knees and just really let go of the neck, the shoulders, the spine. And then slowly come up really slowly, bend the knees, push the feet into the floor, and uncurl. Okay, so come to the front of your space. Push this back a little bit. And then just allow the feet to engage with the ground. It's quite nice to just roll through the feet, so you can do one at a time, rolling up, rolling down, and then rolling from the inner to the outer edges of the feet as well. So this is a modification of the sun salutation, which some of you, if you've done the yoga before, will know it's quite a standard practice, but we can't do a lot of it. We can't lie on your belly. So we kind of modify it a little bit, but it's quite nice to do as a practice. So we kind of modify it because doing the lunges forward and backwards actually is not that great, particularly if you've got SPD or if you think you might be getting it. So what we do, we come to the back of the mat instead. So for those of you that have done sun sals before, you'll know you do and then you step back, yeah? That's not a good move in pregnancy, so we're going to modify it. So we start on the back. So we breathe in, you take the arms all the way up, and then interlace the fingers and push the palms away. And you come over to the side as you breathe out. Come to the centre as you breathe in. Do the same on the other side. So just integrating side bends into your sun salutation is quite nice because, as I said earlier, side bends are really good. And then, rather than coming down with a flat back and trying to engage the abs, which, you can't engage your abs very successfully when you're pregnant, we pour down. So do this really nice, we soften the knees, and we just softly pour all the way down. And then rather than lunging to get onto our knees, you walk your hands forwards until the knees come down to the floor. And then you can do any kind of range of things here. But what is quite nice to do is do some low lunges. So you can bring the right foot forwards and then rise up into crescent moon. And then lots of things you can do here. So wrist circles, if the wrists are feeling a little bit carpal tunnel-y and a bit stiff, then just working through some wrist rotations here. Another nice one to do is to reach the arms back behind and interlace the fingers. So right where you're having your tightness, this is a really nice one to do. And then you can go a little deeper here. So what we might want to do is take that right foot out to the side a little bit, and then you're going to bow down and then raise the arms above the head. And then rise back up. Release the hands, bring them down to the floor, and slide them back. And then instead of doing a cobra or an upward facing dog, you can either do a couple of rounds of cat, which is just kind of rippling the spine up and down, or you can do puppy dog, because puppy dog's quite a nice stretch for the upper body. So we did this one earlier. Thighs are upright, chest is melting down to the floor, and rising all the way back up. And then we can take the left leg forwards, push into the ground, rise up. And we did the wrist circles on the other side. So now what we can do is cactus arms. So exhale, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then inhale, rise up. And then we reach behind again, we interlace the fingers, squeeze the shoulder blades together so it might feel a little loose the second time around. And then you can take the foot wider, so take it out so that you've got room to bow down to the ground and reach the arms up over the head. And then inhale, come up. And then bring the hands all the way to the floor. Take that leg back, and then we can come into a down facing dog. So press all the way back into down facing dog. And then to come up, we do what we did before. You can either just walk your hands back towards your feet, or you can step the feet forwards and you kind of meet in the middle. And then you bend the knees and you uncurl to rise all the way up. And then you can finish, if you want to, by sweeping the arms over the head and bringing the hands back into the heart space. Okay, so that's quite a nice, as I said, modification. So particularly if it's, if it's something you used to do, a couple of rounds of sun stars in the morning gets you going, doesn't it? So that's just the modifications that you can do. It just kind of gets into all the bits that need getting into. Okay, balancing. So not easy on the carpet. So you will need to step off your mat very lightly, because that's just adding more sponginess under your feet, which will disadvantage you in terms of balancing. So we're going to start balancing on the right leg. So spread the right foot and really root it into the ground, and then slightly soften the knee. You want the weight spread into the front and the back. Now as you breathe in, take the left knee up and the arms up. And as you breathe out, circle both arm and knee down. Do that again. So breathe in. And then circle. And come down. Now when it comes to balancing, it's quite useful to use a breath that is quite conducive to helping you balance. One of the things we tend to do when we balance is we hold our breath. It doesn't help. It doesn't help balancing. And you really shouldn't hold your breath when you're pregnant, because as we discussed earlier, your baby is taking a really big proportion of your oxygen. So we can do straw breath. So this is where you breathe out as if you have a straw in the mouth. It's almost like a silent whistle. And it makes the exhale really long, really smooth. It's really relaxing. It's a lovely breath. And if you want, you can breathe in that way as well. We're focusing mostly on the exhale, but you can do the inhale as well. So now you're going to fix the weight into the left leg and use the straw breath and see if it makes a difference. So straw breath in, knee up, arms up. And breathing out, circling. You can see straight away the movements are a lot slower, aren't they? When you move slowly, you balance better. Did you put Karen off?
No, she laughed at me, so she ran over. That's karma. Right. Okay, that is karma.
That's definitely my fault, yeah.
So back on the right leg, left leg coming out to the side. And where you place this leg will really depend on how comfortable you are balancing, but also how the hip feels. So if your balance is really off today, then you can just leave the toes on the floor and rest the heel against the inside of your leg. If you feel okay, you can slide the foot to the inside of the shin. You can bring that foot anywhere along the leg except over the knee joint. It's really bad for the cruciate ligament, so don't hook your foot over the knee. And then if you're comfortable, you can bring it all the way up into the top of your thigh. And we start with the palms together, press them lightly together. So this is quite a good exercise for breast muscles actually. So we press the palms together, works the pectoral muscles, which are the few muscles that support the breasts. So bearing in mind that at some point you may get very full breasts, and sometimes it happens during pregnancy, sometimes it happens as soon as the baby is born, but at some point your boobs are going to grow. So keeping the muscles working is good, and then relax that and just take the arms out to the side. Now find your straw breath again, little squeeze of your pelvic floor muscles. Lovely, and relax and calm down, jiggle. It's quite nice to give it a rebound, so bouncing, jiggling up and down, gets rid of any muscular tension in the legs. And then the left leg is going to support you, that's going to be planted really firmly, left knee slightly soft, right leg externally rotates. And again, you find the place, where do you want the foot to go, where is it most comfortable. And then bring the palms of your hands together again, pressing firmly, just stretching, strengthening these pectoral muscles, finding your straw breath. Releasing the hands, taking the branches of your tree out to the sides, little squeeze of your pelvic floor muscles. And relax and come down. Very nice. Jiggle. Okay, so we're going to just finish with an upper chest stretch, really nice for the shoulders, and then we'll go straight into relaxation. So for this stretch, if I show you, and then you can kind of visualize it. So we lie on the side, and you need a block or a pillow, and you push it towards the back of the head, because what's going to happen is this. So you need to have the block under the head so that your head doesn't kind of roll onto the floor. And we're just going to do this a few times, and it's a really nice thoracic stretch. Now, one of the things to be aware of, you don't want too much pulling in the belly. So it should be just mostly happening in the upper body. However, if you feel excessive tugging in your belly, you might need to back off a little bit and maybe just keep the elbow bent and not take it so far back. You never want to overstretch the belly in twist, because it can lead to diastasis rectus, which is separation of the rectus abdominis. It's quite a nasty thing to happen, because you just have no support for your back and you get a really bad backache. So always be careful with twists. What's happening in the belly? Okay, would anybody like a block? I've got a couple of spare ones. If you might have cushions. Do you want the block? Yeah, got you. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to throw it. It's okay. Okay, Okay, so you're going to line your right side. And you're going to bend the knees up as if you're sitting on a chair, so at right angles to each other. Make sure that your back is straight, you haven't hunched the back over. And then stretch both arms out on the ground in front of you at chest height. Now you're going to move the upper part of your body. Make sure you've got your cushion or your pillow towards the back of your head. You're going to slowly slide the left hand up the right arm, slide it over the collarbones, and then you can just let the left elbow drop towards the floor. Remember to turn your head as you make these movements. The head will go with you. And then just slide the hand all the way back. So if the arm doesn't reach comfortably to the floor, I would keep the arm bent. So Rupinder, keep the hand here because that is going to be more comfortable, and then just twist as much as you can. Yeah, and then take it all the way back. So just working with your breath. Yeah. So I think you're a little bit crooked actually, which is if you roll back into the start position. Yeah. Yeah, you've rounded your upper back. So what I would suggest is, can I touch you?
Yeah.
So your hips are here, but your back is not here. So you need to push your upper back backwards. Yeah, a bit more. And now you need to push your elbow. You just lift your head across the window. Back. Yeah. Now your upper back is straight. So you might want to bend the knees a little bit more just to. Yeah. Now try that. Slide the hand up and see what happens. Yeah. See the difference? Yeah. So if the back is round, you cannot do the twist. Everybody else okay?
I wasn't actually here, so I'm just doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes, I'm going to lift this up. So lift your head a bit.
Yeah.
That's it, because you're lying on it. Okay. Other than that, pretty good. It's like the wall might be in your way.
I think I'm
No
alright.
problem.
Yeah, it's fine, no, don't worry.
Yeah, try and get more, because what you're doing is you're stopping here, then you're doing that with the arm. So you kind of want to, it needs to be more sort of thoracic, so you want to try to move your chest. So move your rib cage over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Otherwise you just hyperextend your shoulder. Okay, now if you're comfortably getting the arm on the ground, you can take a couple of breaths in the full pose. Just take the arms out, hold the pose for a couple of breaths. If you're not quite there yet, then just carry on moving dynamically. And then once you've finished that breath, you can just ease yourself all the way back. And then you're going to roll onto your back. You're going to hug your knees into your chest, or well, not into chest, around your bump. So you're going to move the knees either side of your bump. Just have a little roll and a squeeze. And this is quite a nice sacral massage. If you are having any niggles in your sacrum, doing this massaging move can be quite nice, particularly on a daily basis. And you can almost pinpoint where your particular point is. So it may be that you push the knees forwards and then backwards. It may be that you roll them around. But for each and every one of you, there will be the sweet spot where you can really feel you're getting the most out of this stretch. And then you can drop your feet back down to the ground and then come onto your left side this time. So lying on the left side, again bending the knees up, placing your block behind your head, making sure the back is straight, sitting on that imaginary chair and then resting, taking the arms out at chest height. And then now start to slide the right arm up the left arm, over the collarbones. Let it rest on the right collarbone and just drop the right elbow towards the floor, just turning the rib cage and letting the head follow. And then as you breathe out, sliding the hand all the way back. And just continuing in that same way, so just following this journey. The right hand all the way over the the right hand all the way to the right collarbone. And just aiming to get the right shoulder to comfortably touch the floor. And then if you can comfortably get the elbow to the floor, you might want to spend a couple of breaths in the full position, so just extending the arm out along the ground and just breathing into this extra space that you've created. And then once you've finished, you just ease yourself all the way back. And coming onto your back again, and then going through those little movements that you did before. So knees into the chest, hugging the knees up, massaging into the sacral area. And then when you're ready, you can bring the soles of your feet back down onto the ground. And then just finding your relaxation position. So you might want to put your socks on, maybe put a warm blanket over you. And just supporting yourself wherever you need it. So you can have your pillow under your head, or you might prefer to have it between the knees, because that may be the best position to give you some relief in the sacral area. If you don't put it there, you might want to place it underneath your bumps. If the round ligaments are uncomfortable, then that is where you'll need to put your pillow. I've got spare blocks if anybody wants to cuddle between the knees, you're very welcome. Now, if you're less than 20 weeks pregnant, you can lie on your back. It's still comfortable, it's still okay for your baby to do that. And then after 20 weeks, it's recommended to lie on your side. And you can do right or left, so there's no distinction really, because you're only going to be here for 10 minutes, and actually lying on one side or the other is negligible. There's not a lot of difference between the two. Okay, so I'm going to turn the light off. We're only going to be here for about 5 minutes, but even 5 minutes of rest is good enough. So just allowing yourself to completely relax. So noticing the parts of your body that touch the ground. And see if you can offer and relax all the parts of your body that touch the ground a little bit more. So whether it's your back, your right side, your left side, can you invite them to move a little deeper down into the ground? Once we offer ourselves or surrender control of our body down into the ground, we begin this process of letting go, this process of relaxing. And it begins in the physical body, so we aim to reduce the physical tension that we might be holding in the body. So begin that process in your toes. Start to soften and relax your toes. Soften and release the soles of your feet, and the tops of your feet. Let go of your ankles. And then begin to cultivate a state of softness in the calf muscles, around your knees, and all the way up into your thighs. Create a sense of spaciousness in the whole of your legs, where there's no tightness, no restriction, no tension, just freedom and space. And then move your awareness up into your pelvis and start to create a feeling of spaciousness, softening the muscles in the buttocks, softening the muscles around the side of your hips, and softening the muscles around your belly. And then feeling a sense of spaciousness, softness and spaciousness in your pelvis, and softness and spaciousness in the whole of your belly, space for your baby. And then move your awareness into the whole of the back, starting at the lower back and cultivating the same quality of softness, surrender, spaciousness, so that the back muscles begin to soften and relax. So the shoulder blades start to ease away from each other, and particularly around the shoulders, just relaxing and releasing all of the tightness and tension. So the shoulders feel spacious. And then finally moving your awareness into the head, creating a sense of spaciousness, not just in the physical structure of the scalp and the face, but cultivating a sense of spaciousness, surrender and letting go in the mind. So noticing your thoughts when they arise, and just offering them back out like clouds moving across the clear blue sky. And from that point, just bringing your attention back into your physical body as we come towards the end of our practice this evening. So noticing how the body feels Notice all the sensations of your physical body. And be aware of the sounds that you can hear. Begin to externalize your awareness as you become ready for finishing our session here this evening. So if you're lying on your back, you might prefer to roll to one side to slowly come up, but if you're lying on your side, you may want to slowly move. You can move your toes, your fingers, anything that wants to move. And in your own time, just gently make your way up to sitting. So it's your choice to come up slowly, it's your choice to make your way the best that you can, the most comfortable that you can. And just resting back into a seated position, noticing how your body feels, so being aware of hopefully this quality of spaciousness in your body. And we're just going to take our arms over the head and just have a little stretch, so reach the arms up. And then bringing the hands down into the heart center. Place one hand in the middle of your chest and one hand over your baby. And if you'd like to join me, I'm going to close the practice